Nathan Gaines is a traffic engineering technician for the city of Edmond. One of his job responsibilities is placing these new metrics traffic data collectors on city streets so they can collect valuable information.
This type of equipment is used to collect traffic counts, speed data, vehicle size, temperature, weather conditions,
which is then used to adjust the timing of traffic lights in that area. The traffic plates tally the number of vehicles passing over them and can keep tabs on when the intersection is at its busiest. The data is then used to adjust the timings of nearby traffic lights so that vehicles flow more efficient and steady, even during the morning and evening rush hour. Edmond was the first city in Oklahoma to use the traffic counter plates. Before, the information collected was quite limited.
We had the tube system, which only counted vehicles. It wouldn't give us the time, it wouldn't give us the temperature, the size of the vehicle, or any other extra data that we actually is really needed today.
This is one of the high-tech tools that Edmond's engineering department uses to facilitate the flow of traffic in Edmond, and they are responsible for much, much more.
We deal with all of the traffic signals. We time them. We make sure that we try and give as much time as possible to all the traffic out there. We look for road projects, road widenings, turn lanes, if more signals are needed, if we have high accident areas. We do the planning for future road projects and start from there.
Building a new road or bridge or making improvements to a street is no simple matter. It takes time and money to accomplish. The process can be quite complex. First, the engineering department looks at many factors called warrants to decide which street projects have the highest priority. Warrants may include traffic counts in an area, the condition of the current pavement, the number of accidents, or sight distance problems for motorists. When a location is determined, the design process begins.
You start the design work, you see what's out there, then you have to go buy right-of-way to build the road. You then have to move the utilities, the water lines, the sewer lines, all the different phone lines, the gas lines, the oil lines, the power poles. And it takes an extraordinary amount of time and money to get those moved.
A great example is the Covell Underpass, a project that cost around $20 million to complete and was in the making for quite some time.
The design was started in 1995 and it was completed in 2000, late 2009, early 2010. That's how long the planning process and the construction process took.
The Covell Underpass involved moving Boulevard to the east to make room for the underpass. Because trains still had to be able to travel through the area, temporary train tracks were built while crews worked on the actual underpass. As the 18-month-long construction took place, the engineering department worked closely with the contractors on the progress of the job.
We inspect the project. We deal with any of the issues that come up with the project. The same thing for our road projects. If we're moving things, we work with the water department, we work with the electric department, we'll work with ONG, Cox Cable, AT&T, you name it, everybody down the list that's out there, and there's a bunch. And that's our job, is to communicate with internal and external departments and make sure that we get everything out of the way or everything done so we can get the rest of our projects done.
Road projects can cost a lot of money too. Widening a street costs upward of $5 million per mile. Therefore, the city oftentimes relies on a variety of funding sources.
Most of our funding that we get comes from the federal government through it's what's called the Association of Central Oklahoma Governments. And there's about a pot of $15 to $16 million a year that all of the metro cities compete for.
Usually, 80% of the construction is funded by federal dollars. The city then pays for the other 20%. On top of that, the city is also responsible for the engineering costs, the purchasing of right-of-way, and the costs of moving the utilities. Fortunately, some of these large road projects are also funded by the Capital Improvements sales tax, passed in 2000.
That has allowed us to build several miles of roadway with several more miles to come over the next few years. Definitely have to have those kind of funding sources because that's where we get the money to build the roads.
And the city looks for other grants to help with costs as well. For Covell's widening project, an unexpected grant helped save the city a significant amount of money.
The city had originally budgeted $10 million for the project, all to be city funds. But when we realized there was some money available, we applied for it and we were successful in getting that grant. So the city will probably save about $7.5 million.
In some situations, widening a street is not always feasible. There may not be enough room to widen the street, and the cost may be just too high. To combat these problems, the engineering department turns to other technologies to help control the flow of traffic. Technologies like traffic lights. Each day, motorists and even pedestrians rely on traffic lights to get them safely through busy intersections. Although the signals may seem simple, they actually use a great deal of sophistication to direct the traffic safely and efficiently through the intersection. In most cases, sensors located in the pavement detect the presence of a vehicle. A signal is sent to the light's control box, and the light changes so that the vehicle can safely pass through the intersection. These sensors can also detect empty lanes and even skip green lights for the empty lanes to allow traffic in the other direction to pass through.
One of the other devices we use, it's becoming more and more common, is the video detection. We have video cameras at some locations in the city, probably about 4 or 5 locations right now, and the video cameras will detect the presence of the vehicle. The video cameras are less intrusive. We don't have to cut into the pavement to put in the wires, which helps preserve the integrity of the pavement.
Another way of controlling traffic is interconnecting several traffic lights that run along a busy street. Take Broadway, for example.
We have 5 or 6 signals on Broadway, from 2nd Street down to the city limits, and those signals are interconnected through a hard wire. And those signals all work off the same background cycle so that we can predict when the cue will get from one signal to the next based on the speed limit.
Right now, the engineering department is also looking into other high-tech methods of controlling traffic. One way is through an intelligent transportation system, or ITS for short. This technology positions movable cameras at each of the intersections in the city. The video feed is sent back to a central location where controllers can monitor traffic in real time and make adjustments to lights if necessary.
We can see traffic back up, we can see where it's coming from, we can see what's caused it, if it's a collision or a broke down vehicle causing traffic to get backed up. We can address those things much more quickly with the ITS system than what we currently do. If there's a collision somewhere where the traffic is being backed up or traffic is being rerouted by a police officer out in the field, we can adjust the signal timings right then and there to accommodate where we want that traffic to go. Currently, we can't do that.
Engineering also works with the police department to look at trouble spots in Edmond and figure out ways to improve them if possible.
And we keep track of the number of collisions and what location those collisions occur, what are the conditions that they occur under, and we look at it from a traffic engineering standpoint to see if there's anything that we can do to try to mitigate those types of collisions.
We create a database in our department, and we know what kind of accidents are happening out there. For instance, if there's a lot of accidents where someone's turning in front of someone, then that could be an opportunity to widen the road for a left turn lane or for a signal. But if someone's being hit from behind, in other words, being rear-ended, that's due to driver inattention or too fast to speeds. That's not correctable by a stop sign or signal lights or a turn lane. So we can identify what types of accidents are happening, and most of our accidents in Edmond are rear-end type accidents.
One problem the engineering department identified back in 2000 happened when motorists sped through school zones.
They forgot they were in the school zone, or they may have turned into the school zone from a side street and they didn't see the flashing lights, so they weren't familiar with the fact that they were in a school zone.
So, thinking outside the box, the engineering department proposed installing in-pavement lights that run along the center line in a school zone. The lights flash in unison, giving drivers a constant reminder that they are in an active school zone. When the lights were installed, an after-study concluded that the lights were indeed a success.
The vehicular speeds were decreased by several miles per hour in the school zone. The schools loved them, the police department loved them, the bus drivers loved them, and the parents loved them.
Other technologies that the city uses are the driver feedback signals that are placed in school zones.
The sign has a radar gun mounted inside the sign, so it will display their speeds. And those have been very successful as well in slowing down traffic in school zones.
As Edmond continues to grow, so does the number of vehicles traveling the streets. Fortunately, the city has many traffic planners that are dedicated to helping you to your destination safely and quickly.
Primarily, we're focused on maintaining the roads and keeping them and extending the life of them as best we can. Some of the maintenance activities would include replacing bad sections of concrete streets, bad sections of asphalt streets. We have crews that work on each of those functions.
Maintaining the bulk of Edmond streets is the Field Services Division of the Public Works Department. Incredibly, Field Services crews crack seal over 300,000 linear feet of street cracks each year. Crack sealing prevents moisture from getting under the street and causing problems with the base material below. Other duties include patching potholes and maintaining street signs. Field Services also creates some of their own specialty road signs. They install, replace, and maintain the signs as well. All in all, they stay pretty busy.
There's always something going on with the streets. They're always needing repair. The wintertime months, obviously, weather plays a huge role in how we're able to go out and address some of those issues, temperature and moisture and those type things. But weather usually drives our maintenance activities, and so depending on what the weather's doing, that will dictate whether we're busy or not.
Each October, Field Services equip their 8 available trucks, each with a snowplow and a spreader box that scatters salt and sand on the roadways. It's also a good opportunity to train the newer employees and make sure the trucks are in good working order. So when inclement weather is in the forecast, drivers on call are ready to treat Edmond's designated snow routes.
We establish snow routes here in the city of Edmond, and the reason that we have snow routes is so that, number one, that we have a focal point that we can focus our attention on our maintenance activities. We're not just scattered all over the city, harry-carry, and really not being effective. So we have designated routes that our trucks will run. It also helps the citizens to know, okay, I can go to this street and I know that it's going to be getting attention first, and it's going to help me to be able to maneuver around town.
Snow routes are broken up into primary and secondary roads. The primary roads, of course, receive attention first. They usually include the most widely traveled streets in Edmond. Secondary roads are focused on after the primaries have been treated. Of the 1,400 lane miles of streets in Edmond, there's only enough resources for the city to maintain 400 miles during winter weather events. That's why you won't see city vehicles plowing snow and ice on neighborhood streets. To achieve clearing of all the neighborhood streets, the city would have to triple the amount of their equipment, manpower, and salt and sand supplies. The average snow and ice accumulations are just not enough to warrant that kind of investment. The city does hire contractors to help clear ice and snow on some of the rural section line roads.
Those are roadways that it would generally take us several days before we'd be able to get our plows to, so we go ahead and use the contractors to take care of those.
2 of Edmond's main streets are considered state highways and are therefore treated and maintained by the Oklahoma Department of Transportation. These roads include 2nd Street from Broadway all the way east to I-35 and from 2nd and Broadway going south to the city limits.
They not only provide normal maintenance during the year, they also plow and salt those sections of road during winter weather type situations.
Even when schools and businesses are shut down due to bad weather, dedicated employees in Field Services are working under difficult conditions because they are considered service essential.
We have to make sure that the roads are passable so that people can get to where they need to go, especially the emergency vehicles, so that they can get around and meet the needs of the people that live here in Edmond. We have to deliver water, we have to collect wastewater, we have to do all those things. And so our employees are designated as service essential, and when the job needs to be done, they got to be here. And they understand that, and they respond very well to that. We have a great group of people here that work in the Field Services Department, and they are committed to providing good quality customer service to the residents of this community. And they get up and they do it every day.
Keep this in mind when you're driving and you see one of the field services crewmen working on a city street. There are a few precautions you can take to make their job a lot safer.
It's a dangerous place for them to work. It's probably one of the most dangerous places of any work activity that I can think of. You've got cars driving by you very close at sometimes high rates of speed, and it's a very dangerous atmosphere. We do set up work zones, and we have those to protect our employees while they're out working in the streets. And we just ask that the motoring public recognize, these are work zones and there are people there working, and if they would, just be mindful of that and slow down when they're going through those work zones, and give our crews plenty of room.
Road repairs aren't the only reason streets may be closed in Edmond. Sometimes big events like a parade or a 5K run in Edmond may cause a city street to close. Events like Liberty Fest or the Trick or Treat on the Streets event shut down many city streets in downtown Edmond. Overseeing the street closures is the Special Events Committee.
The purpose of the Special Events Committee is basically to just review applications from various groups that are having special events within the city of Edmond.
Each year, the committee receives around 50 applications. 10 members from various city departments like the police department, the fire department, sanitation, and the Parks and Recreation department meet to discuss the applications case by case and the possibility of street closures.
There are a lot of factors when considering which streets to close for special events. The police and street department really closely look at the time of day that the event is going to be held, the actual day of the week, and whether the requested route is safe.
Not all events require a street to be closed. In fact, if it's possible, the committee encourages groups to take advantage of the larger city parks for the special events, especially racing events.
And those are a lot safer to have events in those types of locations, just because we don't have to close the streets. We don't have to worry about the safety of our participants that are using the streets, as well as the drivers who are out having to find alternative routes.
Applications for special events can be found on the city's website. Visit edmondok.com. Print the application and fill it out. Then turn it into the Parks and Recreation office at the MAC in Mitch Park. The application must be filled out 60 days prior to the event. If you have any questions, or if you see a street problem that needs to be repaired, please contact the Public Works Department at 216-7770. You can also visit the city's website, edmondok.com, and send your request through the Action Center. A service request will be generated, and the appropriate crews will be sent out to fix the problem.
The staff in the engineering department, as well as I think the city as a whole, is very committed to customer service. We know who we work for, and we're here to try and make the community better.